It happened halfway through dinner. Ethan, my fiancé, leaned forward, reached for the platter, and without a word, began peeling prawns. Not for me, for her. 1 prawn, 2, 3, an entire bowl, methodically, like it was muscle memory. She was his ex. The clinking of chopsticks faded. Conversation stalled. One by one, heads turned toward me. I set down my own chopsticks, glanced around the table with a polite smile. Why is everyone staring at me? What? Have humans evolved to survive on air alone? A few people laughed nervously. No one answered. It was my 28th birthday. Ethan had planned the whole thing. Weeks of secretive group chats and whispers. Someone in the chat had even joked, "Is this an engagement party?" The message had stuck in my head. After all, we'd been together 6, maybe 7 years since graduation. It felt like time. I even remembered him asking last month, "What kind of flowers do you like?" A hint, maybe. So today, I'd rushed home early, showered, chosen my best dress, and spent an hour perfecting my makeup. If tonight was the night, I wanted to be unforgettable. When I arrived, most of our friends were already there. The first thing I saw was the wall of roses, towering, dramatic, drowning in red. Not exactly my style, but still, who wouldn't be moved by a gesture like that? Guests smiled at me with open envy. For a moment, I let myself believe Ethan really did understand romance. I overheard one of the guys bragging, "Ethan's been doing this for her every year since they got together." It was true. Before him, I never had big birthdays, just dinner with a few friends. But Ethan, he threw parties like his life depended on it. Still, the roses were the same as last year. And the year before. Lily, my best friend, leaned over and whispered, "Same wall again, huh?" She wasn't wrong. If you say he didn't put in effort, arranging this must take hours. But if you say he did, it's still copy, paste romance. Her words dulled the excitement buzzing in my chest. Every year I told myself not to expect more, but hope was a stubborn thing. And you don't punch a man in public for smiling at you. Especially not when he's your fiancé. So, even though I was starting to suspect tonight wasn't going to end with a ring, I put on my best hostess smile and walked toward him. "Ethan," I called. His smile froze, just for a fraction of a second, before snapping back into place. He took my hand, squeezing too tightly. His palm was damp. He'd always been terrible at hiding things. I eased my hand out of his and smiled lightly, studying the guilt in his eyes. "Why are we still standing here? You went through all this trouble. Shouldn't we be inside with the guests?" As if suddenly remembering the whole point of the night, Ethan turned, clapped his hands and called out, "Let's eat." We walked into the private dining room. And that's when I saw her. A girl I didn't recognize, sitting in the main seat. The one that should have been mine. Even if I wasn't the star of the show, I still had the right to sit there. I was the Thompson family's daughter, and Thompson Corp. was the largest company in Seaview. Every single person here relied on us in some capacity. While our family had not lived in Seaview for as long as Ethan's family had, we had made all the right bets on significant projects and remained aligned with the direction of market growth. We hadn't been kicked off the table in terms of scale or capital. We were far ahead of these, hold money, families. If people wanted to survive, make money, and maintain their current lifestyles, they needed to align with the right people. So, even if they resented it on the surface, everyone treated me as if I were in charge. The situation was so sudden that the group that had just been excitedly discussing an engagement fell utterly silent. It had been a long time since I had been treated like this. Ryan, Ethan's childhood friend, lived nearby. He blurted out, "Holy crap." I surveyed the room. The look on Ethan's friends' faces indicated that they all knew who this girl was. I turned to look at Ethan, as expected. He appeared guilty. That woman in my seat must have been the one he never got over. His ex-girlfriend, the one he could never forget. Even after 6 or 7 years since their breakup, they were able to reconnect and appreciate how generous he was. I smiled politely and said, "Miss, I believe you are in the incorrect seat." I even pointed out that her seat should be at a different table altogether. The one where Ethan had seated a group of people I didn't know and didn't care to know. A woman named Anna Yi stood up slowly with a relaxed expression and greeted me. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize this was your seat." She spoke with a faint, delicate smile, her expression resembling a porcelain doll. It was as if I had harassed her or something. Naturally, I did not respond to her. After all, who I was and who she was were on very different levels. Arguing with her would only bring me down. You might think that sounds fake or pretentious, but let's be honest, I was the main character tonight. What was I supposed to do if I couldn't play a part in my event? Go show off at someone else's party, like she did? That would be not very comfortable. Since I didn't say anything, no one else dared to speak up, especially without an audience. Her brief performance couldn't go on. When it fell flat, the entire room fell into awkward silence. She had enough self-awareness to realize that no one was backing her up. Anna's face turned bright red, and she eventually gave up her seat. I did not hesitate. I took my seat and waited for the food to arrive, because the food at this restaurant was truly amazing. I had just taken out my phone when I heard someone gasp, so I looked up. Ethan had pulled Anna aside and was now sitting her in the chair directly to his left. Oh, how fascinating. I curled my lips into a slight smile. Tonight looked like it would be full of surprises. Sure, I was a part of the show, but watching the drama play out was half the fun. The others looked at me, probably unsure what to do when they realized I wasn't reacting. They also remained silent, but their expressions when they looked at Ethan had changed dramatically. I looked down and noticed him carefully adjusting the hem of Anna's dress, as if he had forgotten entirely. I was sitting right there. That's when it struck me. It might be time to replace this so-called fiancé who did not know how to act. The food at this restaurant was excellent, but due to its popularity, dishes were served slowly. After Ethan's little stunt in front of everyone, my attitude immediately cooled, and the atmosphere in the room became unbearably tense. Most of the people here were more than just friends. They relied on my family's influence to survive in the business world. They'd sneak into this boring party to be on my good side. That way, their businesses could continue to thrive. These guests were most likely furious with Ethan after seeing his performance. They were all waiting for me to say something, give them an excuse to explode, and channel their pent-up emotions into action. But, unfortunately for them, I was not the type of person who enjoyed being used as someone else's scapegoat. I preferred to solve my problems. Eventually, someone stood up, clearly emboldened by alcohol, and shouted, "Ethan, your fiancé is sitting right there. And you're all over this other woman like it's no big deal. What the hell are you doing? You keep saying that the entire surprise was for your baby, but who the hell is the baby today?" Huh, which baby? I raised my brows slightly. Ah, a surprise. Within a surprise. Interesting. Over the years, Ethan had always addressed me by name. There's nothing else. That was never an issue for me. Honestly, we were adults. All that lovey-dovey stuff seemed meaningless, but hearing this guy's outburst clarified one thing. Ethan must have called someone baby more than once, and because everyone knew I was Ethan's fiancé, they all assumed I was the baby he was referring to. It turns out they were mistaken. There was somebody else. I looked up and locked eyes with Anna. She had already changed her expression to one that was calm and graceful, with a single tear clinging to the corner of her eye. She appeared stunning. Honestly, I had to admit that if I were a man, I would be tempted. I was curious to see what kind of bombshell the guy who yelled would drop next. But just as the dishes started arriving, the drama came to a halt. The farce concluded as abruptly as it began. I exchanged glances with Lily. We could see the disappointment in each other's eyes. Lily muttered, "What a waste." Well, hey, it didn't even explode properly. I, on the other hand, was not opposed to good food. So, after that brief moment of disappointment, I threw myself fully into the meal. I was about to lament the fact that the kitchen had cut the chicken drumstick into pieces, ruining my chance to eat it whole, when I noticed Lily inhale sharply. I looked up in surprise and noticed that everyone else at the table had strange expressions on their faces. I turned my head slightly and saw it. Ethan, the man known as the clean freak, was calmly peeling prawns. In a short period, he had already peeled a small bowl full. Judging by the sympathetic looks directed my way, I knew that bowl of prawns wasn't meant for me, so I chose to continue enjoying my meal. Instead, many people knew I was allergic to seafood. That's why such dishes were never served at my parties. But, of course, Anna loved prawns. How did I know? Well, considering the man beside her had just thrown all of my dignity under the bus, it was not difficult to figure out. When Ethan finished peeling, he removed his plastic gloves and, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, placed the bowl of prawns directly in front of Anna. Everyone around us gasped. I found them all annoying. They kept sucking air like ghosts. The food was excellent. Why couldn't they eat peacefully? Their constant gasping was seriously reducing my appetite. I threw my chopsticks down with a loud clatter, and when I turned around, I noticed Ethan hadn't moved his hand away from Anna's plate. However, a flicker of panic flashed in his eyes before he quickly pulled it back and looked at the group, which was still staring at me, and said, lazily, "Why are you all looking at me? Do you think watching me will fill your stomachs when no one moves?" I snapped. Still staring. "You know that if you wait too long, the food will become cold, right? For a brief period, it will taste less appealing." Nobody could figure out how I was feeling. Someone nearby furrowed his brow and was about to stand up, most likely to mediate, but Anna rose first. Instead, she carried herself as if she had everything under control, handing me the bowl of prawns with a fake smile. She explained that Ethan was just being friendly. There's no need to be upset. Wow. That woman knew precisely what she was doing. One simple line, one effortless move, and she made herself appear completely innocent, as if I were the unreasonable one throwing a tantrum. Ethan wiped his hands with a wet towel, looked over at me, and spoke in a cold tone. It wasn't easy to believe we were engaged. Zoe, what are you so upset about? Hearing that made me frown. What did he mean by, I was getting upset? Ethan and I had attended the same college. We were more than just classmates. We sat in the same lecture hall. It wasn't until our junior year that we represented the school in a competition and exchanged WeChat contacts. That was the extent of our interaction. Back then, my social circle was always small. I had only a few close friends growing up. Ethan was the polar opposite. Ever since he was a child, people had surrounded him, some as friends, others simply trying to stay in his good graces. That's why I was surprised when I met him on a blind date. A guy like him, the type who always attracts attention, should have no trouble finding a woman, right? But that blind date was how we reconnected. After seeing each other a few more times, he proposed, and I gladly accepted. One of the main reasons I went on blind dates was to find a reliable father for my child. Ethan was a familiar face, and he was attractive. He'd make an excellent father, so we got engaged. However, not long after we began dating, Ethan's family business began to decline. Maybe it had been in trouble for a while and they were hiding it well, but once they had me, the wealthy, clueless fiancé, they didn't bother pretending any longer. One thing was for sure. From that point forward, the balance of power between us shifted, and Ethan began to change. 2. One of the most obvious signs. Every year for my birthday, he'd invite a bunch of strangers I didn't know and insist on putting up the same tacky rose wall. I'd never understood who liked that rose wall, but now that I see Ethan's darkened expression and Anna's smug expression, everything makes sense. I calmly picked up a serviette to wipe my lips. Then he looked at Ethan. My lipstick has smudged. A little. Sorry, but what were you saying just now? I inquired as if I had not heard him. I raised my hand, cupping it around my ear. Could you repeat that, Mr. Jang? This was always a warning sign before I lost my temper. Anyone who has previously worked with me would be well aware of this. Several people at the table had already set down their chopsticks. The people sitting nearby instinctively moved aside, making room for me. Ethan's tone softened slightly, but he continued to hold his ground. Zoe, he explained, I just gave the prawns to the wrong person. That is all. Can't we discuss this at home? Do you need to make a scene in front of everyone? I gave a short laugh. Ow, this guy was something else, shameless. Honestly, Penny. I called a lovely young woman, quickly approached and raised her hand slightly. Yes, Miss Zoe. She spoke softly. She was my assistant, always smiling and adorable. Simply looking at her made my heart melt. That was why I insisted on keeping her around to train with me. I reached out and pinched her round, soft cheeks. Don't you love prawns? I said. Here, eat this. It's already peeled, so why waste it? Okay, Penny beamed. Her eyes curved into a bright little crescent like the moon. She cheerfully took the large bowl of prawns from me. I promised to finish everything. Watching Penny's delighted expression instantly lifted my spirits, but perhaps giving her the prawn triggered something. In Ethan's fragile ego, he suddenly stood up from his chair and exclaimed, Zoe Thompson, what the hell is that supposed to mean? I was starting to get annoyed by his emotional outbursts. His voice got on my nerves, and my expression became serious. Ethan, perhaps I've been too generous with you, I said, coolly. When my gaze fell on him, his energy vanished completely. His entire posture collapsed. Although I was seated and he was standing, I was able to overcome him because, unlike him, I had nothing to fear. The room fell into tense silence. After a long pause, Ethan murmured, I'm sorry, with his lips barely moving. I overlooked that. I apologize. He repeated it louder, but his eyes glared at me as if he wanted to rip me apart. I gave him a flat look. Why are you yelling? Trying to show everyone how loud you can be. His face twists into a strange expression of embarrassment and anger. I did not bother looking at him again. Anna, meanwhile, was physically restrained by Lily. Such a shame. I said, looking directly at the two of them. You two could have made a lovely couple, but you made a huge mistake by using my money to meet your minor personal needs. I paused, letting my words hang. Please do not say I didn't warn you. I'm not some kind-hearted philanthropist. If you stole from me, you better believe that. Pay it back. Then I returned to Ethan and gently patted his cheek with a bright, sweet smile. I suggested you go home and ask your parents who owns your family business. Now my smile has faded. It might be a good idea to sober up a little. Consider how your family's empire ended up in ruins and why it is barely holding on. The man who had been so arrogant just moments before turned ghostly pale. He stood frozen, unable to respond. The restaurant staff quickly became aware of the commotion. The young waitress, clearly unsure of what to do, hurried over. I didn't want to make things more complicated for her, so I gently told her that she didn't have the authority to handle this. Please get in touch with your manager. She nodded quickly, clearly relieved. Of course, madam. I will notify the manager right away. I nodded and leaned back in my chair, taking a moment to relax before using my money to please Ethan and his small group that wouldn't fly. The manager rushed over shortly after, slightly out of breath. I'm so sorry, Ms. Thompson. Things have been hectic. How may I assist you? I didn't make things any more difficult for him, judging by his apologetic expression. I ask. Was tonight's bill charged to my account? I frequented this restaurant enough to have a membership card. Everything I ordered was usually billed to my name and handled by my assistant, but, given everything that had happened, I couldn't help but wonder how much I had unknowingly paid for. Yes. Ms. Thompson, the manager, responded, wiping sweat from his forehead. His tone was nervous yet respectful. Mr. Jan called us personally and told us it was for a surprise birthday party. Because he's your fiancé, we assumed it was intended for you. We did not call you. As a result, the manager provided a cautious explanation. I nodded. Because this reservation was made in my name, you should have considered my dietary restrictions. I made it clear when I signed up for your membership card that I am allergic to seafood. If the charges for today are to be billed under my name, the dishes served should have reflected my preferences. So, why were prawns on the table? The manager's expression changed dramatically. He looked behind him at the staff, then she quickly turned back to me and said, Please forgive us. Mr. Zhang provided specific instructions and stated that he had essential guests to host. He bowed slightly and apologized repeatedly. Ms. Thompson, please do not be upset. This was entirely our responsibility. Allow us to treat you to this meal. How does that sound? There's no need. I shook my head and said, I can pay for my breakup dinner, but I have things to take care of. The manager was perceptive enough to understand my meaning. He nodded quickly. Of course, please let me know what you need. If it is within my power, I will take care of it myself. All transaction records under my account are accessible, correct? I asked for a complete history of all charges associated with my membership. Yes, absolutely. The manager nodded repeatedly. It's just that your account has received a significant number of visits and purchases here. It may take some time to compile everything. Would it be okay if we sent it to you later? That is fine. I wasn't going to make things harder for someone who was doing his job. I nodded. Please call me when it is ready. My attorney will contact you. The manager seemed to understand exactly what I meant, smiling nervously. He said he understood. I'll make sure everything is handled to your satisfaction. I am satisfied with his response. I smiled softly and patted his shoulder. Great, I'm expecting good news. With that, I took my bag and left the restaurant with Lily and Penny. After leaving, the three of us went to the university district near Seaview University. There was a food street over there full of delicious snacks. It was heaven for foodies. My father called as we were returning home. The call arrived with a large red packet in my account. My parents had recently traveled. They had planned to return for my birthday, but I told them not to worry. After all, they had worked so hard to raise me, and now had time to enjoy life. I did not want to ruin their vacation. After a few words with my father, he handed the phone to my mother. Perhaps she detected something in my voice because, after hanging up, she immediately sent a video call. I couldn't keep my composure when I saw her face on the screen. Her voice was soft but firm. Sweetheart, if you've been wronged, hit back. She patted her face mask gently before continuing. Your father and I did not work our entire lives so that you could go out into the world and get mistreated. If it ever becomes too much, we'll hire a professional manager to handle everything. When we leave, we won't see anything. So, while we're alive, don't suffer. Okay? I know, I responded quietly, feeling a lump in my throat. Her words made me feel even more sorry. Penny leaned forward from the back seat and stuck her head between the front seats. Hello, Auntie. It's Penny. Oh my, it's a Penny. My mother said. I am lighting up. Let me see you. Ah, you're even more of a tutor than before. I handed Penny the phone and listened to their conversation. Fortunately, their laughter warmed my heart. I have made up my mind, Lily said, abruptly turning her gaze towards me. She then added with a scoff. I told you long ago that you should have kicked that jerk to the curb. Look at us. We've been out the entire time, and he hasn't even called you once. Betty is currently messing around with that woman. I I'm going to ask my brother to beat him up tomorrow. Now, calm down, I said with a teasing grin, attempting to soothe her. Your brother is a civil servant. Remember, he can't go around avenging us like he did when we were kids. Lily rolled her eyes. So what's the point of having him? I burst into laughter. What? Do you want to kick him out of Lily's family? Honestly, you only wanted a baby. You could have shared one with anyone. If it comes to that, use my brother. He does not smoke or drink, he's extremely healthy. I spat a mouthful of water. Lily, I gasped. I'm cracking up. You're not wrong, but you could have phrased it better. Just as my face turned red from laughing so hard. I heard a voice in the back seat say, that could also work. Lily's brother grew up alongside us. After all, we know his entire background. Mom, I quickly interrupted her wild train of thought. Can you not fuel the fire? I grabbed the phone and ended the video call before she could say anything else. My mood had significantly improved by the time we arrived home, still laughing from all of the chaos. It was August in Seaview, and the sound of cicadas and the heat seemed exhausted. I stood in front of the Thompson Group building's top floor windows that reached the ceiling. My coffee was being swirled absently. When my phone vibrated, I looked down to see Attorney Jung on the screen. That brought me back to reality. 3 days had passed since the birthday celebration. I hadn't even made my big move, and Ethan was already falling apart. Miss Thompson, we have the full report. Attorney Zong spoke in a tone of excitement and disbelief. In the last 5 years, Ethan has made 427 purchases at that hotel. Anna Yi paused for effect and added the most interesting detail by using your name among the 305 involved. Last Wednesday, he reserved the presidential suite. We also discovered that Anna has the same birthday as you. All the strangers at your party were her friends and family. Every time the party ended, Ethan sent them gifts in your name. I didn't say anything. I looked out the window at the sea of people rushing around below, but my fingers tightened around the coffee cup. My nail tapped against the porcelain, sharp and cold. Those elaborate rose walls were never intended for me. It's no surprise that he was obsessed with throwing birthday parties for so long. He was taking advantage of my generosity by spending my money on himself. How impressive. But I wasn't particularly interested in the rest of it. You've already handled this. I mentioned that I was watching the street below. All I care about right now is getting my money back. When can you make that happen? Attorney Jang hesitated. This may take some time. John Won Kwan. I interrupted and addressed him by name. I'm not paying you that much to listen. This may take some time. He must have picked up on my tone, as he quickly reassured me. Do not worry, Miss Thompson. We will recover everything. The call had just ended when Lily burst through the door, her heels clicking hard against the carpet. I dug it up, she announced triumphantly. Anna Yi was Ethan's high school classmate back then. She dumped him because his family was about to declare bankruptcy, ran off with a wealthy second-generation guy. But when he went bankrupt 2 years later, guess who came crawling back? She slapped a thick file on the desk and grabbed it. Last month, Anna lost 8 million at a Macau casino. I stared at the photographs inside. Anna was wild-eyed in the casino. We are in the middle of the breakdown. I suddenly remembered how she trembled at the birthday party, looking pitiful. So it wasn't from emotion or nerves. It could have been a withdrawal. The shaking that comes with addiction. What is the Jean family's current status? I asked, and Lily smirked like a cat who had just knocked over a vase. When you cut their funding, they completely collapsed. I just received word. Ethan's father was rushed to the hospital this morning because of a hypertensive crisis. I picked up my now cold coffee and gulped it down in one go. Bitterness spread across my tongue. 7 years ago, Ethan said he liked how focused I appeared when I drank coffee. Looking back, perhaps what he liked was how focused my wallet appeared. Suddenly, my phone vibrated violently. 37 missed calls, all from Ethan. Lily looked at the caller ID and gave me a scolding look. Don't tell me you still feel for him. I set down my coffee and frowned. If you knew how much money he's spent in the last few years, you'd realize that saying that is more harmful to my child than any slap across the face. Lily opened her mouth to yell at me, but my phone rang again. This time, it was not Ethan. Anna asked to meet. Lily and I looked at each other. We both noticed a gleam in each other's eyes. Is this where the plot thickens? She asked, barely concealing her excitement. When Anna saw me walk in with Lily, her face twisted immediately. Wow. Miss Thompson, you even bring a sidekick to your appointments before Lily could react. I slapped Anna's face hard. I've already let you off once. You home, destroying parasite. I said coldly, but you came crawling back begging for a beating. You truly are shameless. Hasn't my attorney contacted you yet? You owe me money. Don't forget, I paid for the clothes you're wearing now. I took a step forward, voice sharp, push me far enough and I'll strip you right here. And now let's make you famous for it. Even the server who had begun to walk over came to a halt because, let's face it, society has never had much sympathy for mistresses. Let alone someone who knew he was the third party and still jumped right in. The server appeared hesitant, but I nodded gently at him. Don't worry, we'll talk calmly from now on. Perhaps it was my genuine expression, but he visibly relaxed and left us alone. Anna sat there, face still covered, glaring at me with bitter hatred, but she didn't dare to do anything else. That slap I gave her wasn't gentle. I was relieved that she had calmed down. I nodded slightly. So, what did you call me out here for? Anna clenched her jaw, pulled something from her purse, and threw it on the table. A medical report. I am pregnant. The baby is Ethan's. I blinked, confused. Okay, so you are pregnant. What's that got to do with me? Do you want me to congratulate you? Instead of being embarrassed, Anna's face flushed with smug satisfaction. Ethan told me that I couldn't get pregnant. Your health is too poor, but you can have this baby, his baby, if you agree to pay me 8 million yuan. Once I give birth, the child will be yours. The longer I listened, the more disturbed I became. I quickly cut her off before she could continue with this legally insane proposal. Girl, did you at least attend college? Let me remind you that surrogacy and baby trafficking are both illegal. If you want to go to prison, that's fine. Please don't drag me down with you. Anna appeared flustered, believing I was rejecting the price, and quickly lowered her head. Offer 5 million works to Jesus. I raised my hand, cutting her off again, and immediately flagged down the waiter. Check, please. Then I grabbed Lily and bolted out of there as if our shoes were on fire. I just came to watch some drama and almost ended up in a felony. Bad luck always seems to arrive in waves. We walked right into another mess after escaping the first. As we rounded the corner to leave the cafe, Anna, still recovering from her humiliation, looked up and locked eyes with none other than Ethan. He stood just outside the cafe's entrance, his expression so dark that he appeared to have been carved from storm clouds. His suit was as wrinkled as a discarded rag. His tie hung crookedly, and his eyes were bloodshot. He didn't look like the polished man from a few days ago, more like a trapped animal with no escape. Zoe Thompson, he yelled, storming towards me and grabbing my wrist. Will you stop until I'm completely ruined? Lily stepped in front of me right away. Ethan, what the hell are you doing? People in the cafe had already turned and stared. I patted Lily on the shoulder, signaling her to step aside. Then I took a calm look at the man who had once been so charming and composed. Jang, I asked coolly to be mindful of the setting. Ethan gave a cold laugh. His voice was low, but sharp. Oh. Now you're concerned about the setting. Did you care when you cut off my funding and had people go through my financial records? Were you worried about the situation when you admitted my father to the intensive care unit? I then slowly adjusted my cuff. Ethan, you used my name to conduct 27 unauthorized transactions. 305 of them were for Anna Y. You booked the presidential suite using my membership just last Wednesday. I raised my gaze to meet his need, and the color on Ethan's face changed from red to bone white, but instead of letting go, his grip on my wrist tightened. I will pay it back, he hissed. But do you even know what you've done? Just one word from you and no one in Seaview will do business with the Zhangs. That means they are smart, I said, pulling my arm free. They know who not to mess with. Ethan's eyes darkened as a storm gathered behind them. Zoe, please do not push me. I knew it looked too good. It was the look of a gambler who had recently lost his last chip. This frantic, desperate madness. I cast a subtle glance at Lily, who noticed right away and stepped aside to make a call. I softened my tone slightly. Ethan, this is your last chance. Walk away while you can. He let out a broken laugh, as if something within him had snapped. I can't even afford my father's hospital deposit right now with what I have. Ethan abruptly lowered his voice. But I know you have a way. Thompson Group's cash flow is massive. Tens of millions don't mean anything to you. My chest tightened. That was not a negotiation, it was a threat. They say you shouldn't trip in the same spot twice, and I knew better than to be soft on the same person more than once. With that thought, I shifted my weight, stepped back, and kicked him square in the chest. Ethan wasn't prepared for it. My kick knocked him to the ground with a loud thud. As he hit the ground, a small knife fell out of his pocket. He lay there clutching his chest and face, pale with pain. Lily burst into laughter beside me. Zoe, your kicks are no joke. I shook my leg and spoke calmly. Guess how much I spent on martial arts? Lessons were not wasted. Ethan struggled to his feet, furious eyes. Zoe Thompson, you hit me, what if I did? I sneered. You stole from me, funded your mistress, and now you expect me to be fair to you. His face darkened as he was about to lunge at me again, when mall security intervened and stepped between us. Sir, please calm down. One of the guards said sternly. and Ethan gritted his teeth. Do you know who I am? How dare you block me? The guard was unmoved. We don't care who you are, causing a scene in public gives us the right to ask you to leave. I did not bother looking at him again. I turned to the guards and thanked them. He is not in a stable state of mind. It might be best if he cooled off somewhere else. And with that, Lily and I walked away, perhaps because they had truly run out of options. Ethan and Anna ultimately decided to go live online. Their livestream was nothing but a desperate smear campaign. They attempted to portray me as a homewrecker to manipulate public opinion and gain sympathy, effectively flipping the narrative in their favor. Gossip about the rich, especially romantic scandals, was always going to draw a crowd. I couldn't blame them. I had my own side account for the occasional drama binge, but fantasy is fun only until reality kicks the door in. When things between Ethan and me imploded, my team was already braced for impact. The second their livestream began, we pounced, seizing the chat, bending the narrative, turning the chaos into our stage. Behind them stood a wall of roses. Ethan's signature brand of over the top romance. 5 minutes in, they were babbling like clowns for thousands to see and then cut. Removed from the platform in real time. We redirected that massive, gossip-fueled audience straight to our company's account. I still don't know where Lily found that host, but they were a magician, feeding just enough scandal to keep viewers glued while sliding in slick product plugs, unbeatable deals, and brand storytelling sharp enough to slice steel. By night's end, sales figures shattered every record, silencing the board members who had doubted me. 3 months later, the verdict came down: Ethan and Anna, convicted, John Group bankrupt, every asset liquidated. On the courthouse steps the sun was so bright it stung. Lily pressed a cup of milk tea into my hand. I took a sip and wrinkled my nose. It's got ice, she smirked. Not bad though. At least I got my full refund in money. Lily rolled her eyes. Girl, you got your life back. I laughed, looping my arm around her shoulders. Come on, lunch is on me. Because nothing tastes better than freedom bought with your own damn money. The end.